That's right, Edith.
Yes, Mum.
Now, you'd better fetch the ice bucket.
Yes, Mum. Oh, did you manage to get the ice out of those little tiny trays?
Oh, yes, Mum. I had a bit of a struggle, but it's all right. And you refilled it with water again?
Yes, Mum.
Very good, Edith. You're making giant strides.
Yes, Mum.
Now, Madame Arcati, Mrs. Bradman and I shall have our coffee in here, I think, after dinner. And Dr. Bradman and Mr. Corndermine will have theirs in the dining room. Is that quite clear?
Yes, Mum.
And when we're serving dinner tonight, Edith, try to do it calmly and methodically.
Yes, Mum.
As you're not in the Navy, not everything needs to be done at the double.
Very good, Mum.
Now go and get the ice.
Yes, Mum.
Not at a run, Edith.
No sign of the advancing hordes.
Oh, they're coming.
No ice.
Oh yes, no, that's coming. I'm trying to discourage Edith from being quite so fleet of foot. So you mustn't mind if everything's a little slow motion tonight.
I shall welcome it. The last few days have been extremely agitating. What do you suppose induced Agnes to go and leave us and get married?
Well, I think the reason was becoming increasingly obvious here.
Yes, but nowadays nobody thinks anything of that sort of thing. She could easily have popped into the cottage hospital, had it, and popped out again.
Well, I think her social life would have been seriously undermined.
We must try to keep Edith in the house more.
Oh, that's right, Edith, just on the table there.
Yes, Mum.
I left my cigarette lighter on my dressing table, Edith. Would you get it?
Yes, sir.
There now.
Well, you took her by surprise.
A dry martini, I think, don't you?
Oh, yes, darling. Although I imagine Madame Arcati will want something a little sweeter.
We'll have this one for ourselves, anyhow.
Oh, dear.
What's the matter?
Well, I just have this feeling that this evening is going to be awful.
Well, it'll probably be funny, but not awful.
Well, you must promise not to catch my eye, for if I am to giggle, and I'm very likely to, it shall ruin everything.
Oh, but you mustn't. You must be dead serious and, if possible, a little intense. We don't want to hurt her feelings, however funny she might be.
But why the Bradmans, darling? Dr. Bradman is as sceptical as we are, and he's likely to say the most dreadful things.
I warned him. We had to have more than 3 people, and it couldn't be the vicar and his wife because A, they're dreary, and B, they probably wouldn't approve at all. It had to be the Bradmans. Thank you, Edith.
Oh, yes, sir.
Steady does it, Edith. I suppose we could make a walk about with a book on our head like they do in the portrait lessons. One second.
Oh, lovely, darling.
There we go. Try that.
Thank you. Oh, yes, dry as a bone.
Here's to the unseen.
I must say, that's an extraordinary title.
If this evening is a success, I shall start on the first draft in the morning.
How extraordinary it is.
What's that?
I don't know, being right at the beginning of something, it gives one an odd feeling.
Do you remember how I got the idea for The Light Goes Out?
Of course, suddenly seeing that haggard, raddled old woman at the hotel at Biarritz. She sat up half the night talking about it.
She certainly came in very handy. I wonder who she was.
Yes, or if she ever recognised herself. In the description of the character, I mean. Poor dear. Anyway, here's to her, anyway.
Have another.
It's awfully strong, darling.
Never mind.
Used Elvira be of help to you when you were thinking something through, I mean?
Every now and then, when she concentrated, but she didn't concentrate very often.
I do wish I'd known her.
I wonder if you'd have liked her.
Oh, yes, no, I'm sure I should. Well, as you talk of her, she sounded enchanting. Well, yes, no, I really do think I would have liked her, as, you know, I never once for an instant felt remotely jealous of her. Well, that's a good sign.
Poor Elvira.
Oh, does it still hurt when you think of her?
No, not really. Sometimes I wish it did. I feel rather guilty.
Oh, well, I wonder if I were to die, would you forget me so quickly?
What a horrible thing to say.
No, I interesting.
Besides, I haven't forgotten her. I remember her quite distinctly. I remember how fascinating she was and how infuriating. I remember how badly she played all games and how cross she got when she didn't win. I remember her gay charm whenever she succeeded in getting her own way at something, and her extreme acidity when she didn't. I remember her physical attractiveness, which was tremendous, and her spiritual integrity, which was nil.
You can't remember something that was nil, darling.
I remember how morally untidy she was.
Would you say she was more physically attractive than me?
That was the most tiresome question, dear, and as fully deserves the wrong answer.
You are sweet.
Thank you.
And also a little naive.
How do you mean?
Because you think I should mind if you found Elvira more attractive than me.
Well, I should imagine any woman would mind, if it were true. But then perhaps I'm just old-fashioned in my view of female psychology.
Not so much old-fashioned, rather more didactic.
Why?
Well, because it's deductive to attribute to one type the defects of another. For instance, you know perfectly well that Elvira would have minded terribly if you found another woman more attractive than her. Well, it doesn't necessarily follow that I would. Well, Elvira was more physical than I am. It's all a question of degree.
I love you, my love.
I know you do, dear. But not the wildest stretch of imagination would call it the first careless rapture.
Would you like it to be?
Good God, no.
Wasn't that just a shade too vehement?
No, darling, I mean, we're hardly adolescents, are we? And we haven't lived exactly prim lives. And well, we've both been married before. No, careless rapture at this stage would be, well, embarrassing and incongruous.
I hope I haven't been in any way a disappointment to you, darling.
Don't be silly, Charles.
After all, your first husband was a great deal older than you too, wasn't he? I should hate to think that you'd missed out all along the line.
Sometimes, Charles, you really do go too far.
Sorry, darling.
Anyway, your waspish views of female psychology are didactic, to say the least.
I've had the same said of Julius Caesar.
But Julius Caesar is neither here nor there.
He may be, for all we know. We'll ask Madame Arcati.
Honestly, Charles, you really do go too far to be wishy at all costs, almost supercilious.
That's exactly what Elvira used to say.
Well, I'm not at all surprised. Physically triumphant as she was, I doubt she was completely lacking in perception.
Darling Ruth, as I think I mentioned before, I love you, my love.
There you go again.
Didn't that light, comradely kiss mollify you at all?
Oh, poor Elvira.
That remark is growing monotonous.
Oh, you are so annoying, Charles. When I said poor Elvira, it came from the heart. Oh, how you must have bewildered her so horribly.
Don't I bewilder you at all?
Not for an instant. I know every trick.
Well, all I can say is we'd better get a divorce immediately.
Put my drink down, will you, darling?
She certainly had a talent for living. It's a shame she died so young.
Poor Elvira.
Monotonous.
Well, poor Charles, then.
That's better.
And later on, I suspect poor Ruth as well.
You've no faith, Ruth. I really do think you ought to try to have a little faith.
I shall strain every nerve, Charles.
A life without faith is an arid business.
I wonder if I was to die, would you marry so soon again?
You won't die. You're not the dying sort.
Well, neither was Elvira.
Yes, she was, now that I come to think of it. She had a certain ethereal, not quite of this world quality to her. Nobody could call you even remotely ethereal.
Nonsense. No, she was of the earth. Earthy.
Well, she is now.
Oh, Charles, really? That is exactly the kind of comment that shocks people.
It's discouraging how many people are shocked by honesty and how few by deceit.
You should write that down before you forget it.
Oh, you underrate me.
And anyway, it's not so much a question of honesty, more of bad taste.
I was devoted to Elvira. We were married for 5 years. She died, and I missed her very much. That was 7 years ago, and I have, by now, with your help, my love,
risen about the whole business.
Admirable, Charles. But I still say if tragedy were darken our lives with profound foreboding, poor Ruth.
That'll be the bread
Oh, well, it might be Madame Arcati.
No, she'll come on a bicycle. She goes everywhere on her bicycle.
Oh, well, how very spirited of you, girl.
Should I get it, or will we let Edith have her? Please.
No, let's wait a moment and see what happens.
Perhaps she didn't hear.
She's probably on one knee in a pre-sprinting position, waiting for Cook to open the kitchen door.
Steady, Edith.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you.
Doctor and Mrs. Bradman.
We're not late, are we? I just got back from the hospital about half an hour ago.
Of course not. Madame Arcati isn't here yet.
That must have been her we seen coming down the hill.
Yeah.
I said I thought it was.
Well, then, she won't be long. We're so delighted you could come.
We've been looking forward to it. I really feel quite excited.
I guarantee that Violet will be good.
Please come and sit down.
I made her promise.
Try martini.
Oh, certainly, yes.
She certainly is a strange woman.
Oh, yes.
It was only a chance remark of the vicar's about seeing her up on the knoll on Midsummer's Eve in some sort of Indian robe that made me realise she was psychic at all. Then I started to make inquiries. Apparently she's been a professional in London for years.
I've seen her in the village, and she doesn't look that peculiar at all.
Oh, they look very well. Dry martinis, are they?
Yes. I am.
Imagine trying to make money from it. Although I've heard it's very, very lucrative.
Do you believe in it, Mrs. Condamine? Do you think there's anything genuine about it at all?
Oh, no, I'm afraid not. Although I do think it is fascinating how easily people can be deceived.
But she must believe in herself, mustn't she? Or is the whole business a fake?
I suspect the worst. A real professional charlatan. That's what I'm hoping for, anyhow. The character I'm planning for my book must be a complete imposter. It's one of the most important factors of the whole story.
What are you hoping to get from her, exactly?
Mostly jargon. A few tricks of the trade. It's years since I was at a séance, so I want to refresh my memory.
Oh, so the whole thing is not exactly new to you?
No. As a young boy, I had an aunt who used to come and visit, and she believed she was a medium. She used to go into the most elaborate of trances after dinner, and my mother was fascinated.
Was she convinced?
Oh, heavens no. She just naturally disliked my aunt and loved making a fool of her.
I take it that there were never any tangible results?
I don't know. Sometimes Auntie didn't do too badly. I remember one occasion when we were all sitting in the dark and Mother was groping her way through Chaminade on the piano, when my aunt gave a loud shriek and said she saw a small black dog beside my chair. Then somebody turned on the lights, and sure enough, there it was.
How extraordinary.
It obviously was a stray that had come in off the street, but I did take my hat off to Auntie for producing it, or at least utilising it. Even Mother was a bit shaken.
What happened to it?
It lived with us for years.
Oh, well, I really hope Madame Arcati's not going to produce any livestock this evening. We have so very little room in this house.
Do you think she tells fortunes? I'd love having my fortune told.
I expect so.
Oh, well, I was once told on the pier at Southend that I was surrounded by a golden seven and lilies. Well, it worried me for days.
We really must all be very serious and pretend that we believe implicitly. Otherwise, she won't play.
Yes, no, and it would be so cruel to upset her.
Okay, well, I'll be as good as gold.
Have you ever attended to a doctor? Professionally, I mean.
Yes, she had influenza in January. Well, she's only been here just over a year, you know. And she was singularly unpsychic then. Because I always thought she was an authoress.
Oh, yes. We originally met as colleagues at one of Mrs. Wilmot's Sunday evenings at Soundgate.
What sort of books does she write?
Two kinds. Rather whimsical children's stories set in enchanted woods populated by the most unorthodox flora and fauna, and enthusiastic biographies of minor royalty. Very sentimental, reverent, and extremely funny.
Oh, here she is.
She knows about tonight, doesn't she? You're not going to spring it on her.
No, of course not. No, everything was arranged last week. I told her how fascinated I was by anything to do with the occult, and she blossomed like a rose.
But you know, I am really feeling rather nervous as though we're about to make a speech.
You go and meet her, darling.
I've laid my bike up against that little wall. It'll be perfectly all right. Nobody touches it.
Madam Mercassi. Oh, how good of you to come all this way.
My dear Madame Arcade.
I'm afraid I'm rather late. But I had a sudden presentiment that I was going to have a puncture, and so I went back to get my bicycle pumped. And then, of course, I didn't have a puncture at all.
Perhaps you will on the way home.
Dr. Bradman, the man with the gentle hands.
Delighted to see you looking so well. Oh, this is my wife.
How do you do?
We're old friends.
Yes.
We meet coming out of shops.
Yes.
Would you care for a cocktail?
Oh, if it's a dry martini, yes. But if it's a concoction, no. Experience has taught me to be very wary of concoctions.
It is a dry martini.
Oh, how delicious. It was wonderful cycling through the woods this evening. I was deafened with birdsong.
Oh, yes, it has been lovely all day.
Over the evenings of time, mark my words. Oh, thank you. Cheers.
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 Like so.
Would you have done all right?
And do you find it tiring bicycling everywhere, Madame Arcati?
Oh, on the contrary, it stimulates me. Oh, I was getting far too sedentary in London. That horrid little flat with its dim lights. They had to be dim, you know. The clients expect it.
I must say, I find bicycling very exhausting.
Oh, steady rhythm. That's what counts. Once you get the knack of it, you need never look back. On you get and away you go.
But those hills, Madame Arcati, pushing up those awful hills.
Well, knack again. Down with the head, up with the heart, and soon you're over the top like a flash and skimming down the other side like a dragonfly. This is the dress bar dry martini I've had for years.
Would you like another?
You certainly. You're a very clever man. Anyone can write books, but it takes a true artist to make a dry martini that's dry enough.
And are you writing anything at the moment, Madame Arcati?
Oh yes, every morning, regular as clockwork, 7 to 1.
Is it a novel or a memoir?
Well, it's a children's book. I have to have it finished before the end of October to make the Christmas sales. It's mostly about small animals. My hero is a moss beetle. I had to give up my memoir of Princess Paliatani because, well, she died last April. Oh, she implored me to go on with it when I was speaking with her recently, but really, I didn't have the heart.
You talked to her the other day.
Oh, yes. Well, through my control, of course. Oh, she sounded very irritable.
It's funny to think of people in the spirit world being irritable, isn't it? One can hardly imagine it, can one?
Well, we've no guarantee that the afterlife is any less exasperating than this one now, do we?
Oh, Mr. Compromise, how can you?
Well, I'm afraid it's rather ignorant of me not to know, but who was Princess Paliatani?
Well, she was originally a Jewess from Odessa, of remarkable beauty. Yeah? It was an accepted fact that people used to stand on the seats at railway stations to watch her whiz by.
She was a keen traveller, was she?
In her younger days, yes. And then she met a Mr. Clark at the consular service. And she settled down there for a while.
Well, then how did she become Princess Paliatani?
Oh, and all that came years later. You see, Mr. Clark passed over and left her penniless with 2 two strapping young girls.
Well, how unpleasant.
Terrible.
And so, well, there was nothing for it but to obey the beckoning finger of adventure. So off she went, bag and baggage, to Vladivostok.
What an extraordinary place to go.
Well, no, she had cousins there. And then some years later, she met Rupeliatani. You see, he was coming back from Japan from a secret mission. Well, he was immediately staggered by her beauty, and they married shortly afterwards. Her life became very interesting after that.
I should hardly have described it as dull before.
But what happened to her girls?
She neither saw them nor spoke to them for 23 years.
Oh, but how extraordinary.
Oh, no, I mean, she was always very erratic, emotionally speaking.
Dinner is served, Mum. Oh, thank you, Edith.
Shall we?
No red meat, I hope.
Well, there is meat, but I don't think it shall be very red. Would you rather an egg or something?
No, thank you. It's just, I make it a habit never to have red meat before I work. It sometimes has an odd effect.
What sort of effect?
Well, nothing if it's not that red. Don't matter much. I think we'll risk it.
Come along, then.
I could eat, I am so
Now,
happy.
Madame Party, Mrs. Bradman, your chance is right. Just
Oh, I can eat all around. Thank you.
Right on through.
Oh, this looks lovely. Thank you.
On her mother's side, she went right back to the Borgias, which I think accounted for a lot, one way or the other. I mean, even as a child, she was prone to the most violent, destructive tempers. Very inbred, you know.
Yes, she must have been.
I could hear the other day in Daphne's voice my control. Oh, she was quite scared. She is only a child, after all.
Do you always use a child as your control?
Yes. Well, generally they're the best. Now, some mediums prefer Indians, but personally, I have always found them most unreliable.
In what way unreliable?
Well, for one thing, they're frightfully lazy. And for another, when faced with any sort of difficulty, well, they're apt to go off in their own tribal language, which of course is unintelligible and generally spoils everything, wastes a great deal of time. I've been dealing with Daphne for years.
And she still goes on to be a child. I mean, she doesn't show any signs of growing any old.
Time values on the other side are utterly different to ours.
Do you feel funny when you go off in a trance?
In what way funny?
I don't think Mrs. Bradman meant funny in the comical sense, but rather strange or odd.
Well, the word was an unfortunate choice.
I'm sure. I'm sorry.
No need to apologize.
When did you first discover that you had these extraordinary powers, Madame Arcati?
When I was quite tiny. You see, my mother was a medium before me, and so I had every opportunity of starting on the ground floor, you might say. I had my first trance when I was 4 years old, and my first ectoplasmic manifestation when I was 5½. Oh, what a day that was. I shall never forget it. Of course, the manifestation itself was quite small and of limited duration, but for a child of my tender years, It was most gratifying.
Your mother must have been so pleased.
Oh, yes, she was.
Can you foretell the future?
Certainly not. I disapprove of fortune tellers most strongly.
Oh, I'm sure. Why?
Too much fake and guesswork mixed up with it. Even when the gift is genuine, which it only ever occasionally is. Oh, no. You cannot count on it.
Oh, but why not?
Time again. Time is the reef upon which all our frail mystic ships have sailed.
You mean because it has not yet been proven that the past, the present, and the future are not one and the same thing?
Well, I long ago came to the conclusion that nothing has ever definitely been proven about anything.
Well, how very wise. I'll take it for you. Thank you. Oh, Edith. Yes, Edith. You can leave the dining room table as it is for this evening and clear it in the morning.
Yes.
And we don't want to be disturbed for the next hour or so, for whatever reason.
Yes.
And if anyone should call, please tell them that we are busy and take a message.
Yes.
Unless it's an urgent call for George.
Oh, yes, unless it's an urgent call for Dr. Bradman.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, there's not likely to be one, is there?
No, I don't think there is, no.
Well, once I'm off, it won't matter in the slightest. But an interruption in preliminary stages would be disastrous.
I wish the men would hurry up. I'm getting terribly excited.
Oh, please don't, dear. It usually makes things a lot more difficult.
It's not going to be rich in the
Yes, well, that's the thing, you see. It gets out as you don't notice. That's the worst thing. That's the worst thing I can confess. Well, madame, Arcati, the time is drawing near.
Who knows? It may be receding.
Now, very true.
I hope you feel in the mood, Madam Arcadi.
It isn't a question of mood, Dr. Bradman. It's a question of concentration.
Well, you must forgive us for being so impatient. Oh, we can easily wait if you're not quite ready.
Oh, no, my dear. I am absolutely ready. Well, hi-ho, to work we go.
Would you like us to do anything?
Do anything?
Yes, held hands or something.
Oh, no. All of that will come later. But first I must take a few deep breaths of fresh air. You may talk if you like. It won't disturb me in the slightest.
Dear.
An excellent dinner, darling. I congratulate you.
Yes, but the mousse wasn't quite right.
Well, it looked a bit hysterical, but it tasted delicious.
Yeah, but that cuckoo is very angry.
I beg your pardon?
I said, that cuckoo is very angry. Listen.
How can you tell?
The timbre. Yeah, there's no moon out. It's a good thing, I think. Yeah, there's a mist rising up from the marshes. Ooh. Oh, I don't suppose I need to light my bicycle lamp, do I? I mean, there's no likelihood anybody will fall over, is there?
No, we're not expecting anyone else.
Good. Well, then, good night, you foolish bird. Now then, you have a table for me?
Yes, we thought this one.
No. I think the one here in the centre would be much better.
Okay.
You want to change it around? I don't give you a hand.
Get a chair there, brother.
There are only chairs if you want.
Well,
This is the moment I always say.
Are you nervous?
Yes. Oh, even as a child, I was almost to be sick.
Well, how fortunately maybe you grew out of it.
Yes, well, children are always more prone to being sick than adults, aren't they? I recall I couldn't travel safely on a train until I was 14.
Thank you.
Well, happy of you.
Sings for his supper. What shall he have? A brown to because it isn't grand at all, but Daphne loves it.
Who's Daphne?
Oh, Daphne is Madame Arcati's control. She's a little girl.
Oh, I see, of course, yes.
How old is she?
You were rising 7 when she died.
And when was that?
6th of February, 1884.
Oh, the poor thing.
Must be a bit long in the tooth by now, I should think.
George, you should think, Dr. Bradman, but I'm afraid you don't. At least not profoundly enough.
George, please.
It's quite all right, Mrs. Bradman. I'm quite used to skeptics. They generally turn out to be the most vulnerable and receptive in the long run.
Well, Dr. Bradman, you better take that warning to heart.
Please forgive me, Madame Arcati. I can assure you I am most deeply interested.
It is of no consequence. Now then, will you all please take your seats around the table and place your hands facing downwards on it.
What about the lights?
All in good time, all in good time. Now then. And the fingers should be touching. Yes. Yes, very good. Yes. Now then. Is that the gramophone there?
Yes, would you like me to start it? It's an electric one.
No, I can manage. Now then, let me see. What do we have here? Let's see. Brahms, oh no. Rachmaninoff, oh no. Too florid. Where's the dance music?
Oh, the loose ones at the back.
Very good.
I'm afraid none of them very new.
Daphne's more attached to Irving Berlin than anybody else. She likes a tune she can hum to. Yes, here's one. Always.
Always?
Charles, sit down. Whatever's the matter with you?
Nothing. Nothing at all.
Now then, tell me, the light switch by the door, is that correct?
Yes, all except for the lamp, obviously, and the gramophone.
Oh, yes, very good. I understand.
Charles, do sit still, will you?
Fingers touching. Remember what Madame Arcati said.
Now, before we commence, there are a few things I should like to explain. So will you all please listen attentively?
Of course.
Presently, when the music starts, I shall turn out the lights. I shall then either walk about the room or lie down flat for a little. In due course, I shall draw up this dear little stool here, and I shall join you at the table. I shall place myself between you and your wife, Miss Conmine, and I shall place my hands lightly upon yours. Now I must ask you not to move, or address me, or distract me in the least possible manner. Is that quite clear?
Perfectly.
Of course. I can't guarantee anything will happen. Daphne may be unavailable, for instance. She has a head cold, poor dear. She's rather under the weather. Maybe unavailable. But then on the other hand, a great many things may happen. One of you may experience an emanation, for instance. Or you may make contact with a poltergeist, which would be very destructive and noisy.
In what way destructive?
Oh, they throw things, my dear.
But I didn't know that.
Oh, yes. But we must cross that bridge when we come to it, mustn't we?
Certainly, by all means.
I don't think I should like that.
Fortunately, an elemental at this time of year is quite unlikely.
And what do elementals do?
Oh, my dear, one can never tell. They're dreadfully unpredictable. They usually take the form of a very cold wind. Occasionally rising to hurricane velocity.
You don't suppose we should remove the pictures and ornaments from the mantelpiece before we begin?
No. Miss Contamine, there's no need to worry. I can assure you, I have my own methods for dealing with elementals.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Now then, are you all ready to empty your minds?
You mean to try to think of nothing?
Absolutely nothing, Dr. Bradman. Try to think of an empty space or a nondescript colour. That's usually the best manner.
Well, I do my damnedest.
Good work. Now the music. anybody there? Is there anybody there? 1 rap for yes, 2 raps for no. Is there anybody there? Yeah. Is that you, Daphne? Oh, Daphne, how's your cold, dear? Oh dear, I'm sorry to hear that. Are you taking anything for it, Daphne? Oh dear, I'm afraid she's rather fretful tonight. Oh. Daphne? Is there anybody there who wishes to speak to anybody here? Now we're getting somewhere. Oh, Daphne, oh, please don't do that, Daphne. No, Daphne, you're hurting me. Please. Daphne. Oh, you say there's somebody there who wishes to speak to somebody here. Is it me? Is it Dr. Bradman? Is it Mrs. Bradman? Is it Mrs. Conman? Oh, Daphne, please. Oh, please, behave yourself. Is it Mr. Conman? There's someone who wishes to speak to Mr. Conman.
Tell them to leave a message.
I really must ask you not to be so flippant, Mr. Conman.
Charles, don't be so silly. You'll spoil everything.
Sorry, it just slipped out.
Well, do you know of anybody who recently passed over?
Not recently, no. Except my cousin in the civil service, but he's hardly likely to want to communicate with me. We haven't spoken for years.
Are you Mr. Conman's cousin in the civil service? No, we've drawn a blank. Can't you think of anybody else? Rack your brains, man.
Oh, well, you know, it might be old Mrs. Plummet. Well, she died on Whit Monday. Oh.
Why should old Mrs. Plummet wish to speak to me? We had very little in common.
Well, you never know, Charles. It's worth a try.
Are you old Mrs. Plummet?
Well, you know, she was rather deaf. You ought to shout.
Are you old Mrs. Plummet? No, there's nobody there.
Oh, how disappointed, just as we were getting on so well.
Violet, be quiet.
Well, I'm afraid there's nothing for it, but we shall have to go into a trance. And, well, I'm also hoping we could avoid this because, you know, it's just so exhausting. But what's to be is to be. You excuse me for a moment. I have to start the gramophone again.
Not always. Don't play always again.
But don't be absurd, Charles. What have you been out for?
Well, I'm afraid it must be. I mean, it would be rather imprudent for me to change horses in midstream, if you know what I mean.
Have it your own way.
Little Tommy Tucker.
If that would be Daphne, she want to have her adenoids taken out.
George, please.
Good God!
Charles, keep still.
It's trying to get away. I can't hold it.
I said hold up. There now, it's falling.
Ought we to pick it up or leave it where it is?
How the hell do I know?
Oh, don't snap at me.
Leave it where it is.
Who said that?
Who said what?
Somebody said leave it where it is.
Nonsense, dear.
But I heard it distinctly.
But nobody else did.
It's you, Ruth. You're playing tricks.
I'm doing no such things, Charles. I haven't uttered a word. Good evening, Charles.
Ventriloquism, that's what it is. Ventriloquism.
What is the matter with you?
Well, surely one of you heard that.
Heard what?
Do you mean to sit there solemnly and tell me that none of you heard anything at all?
Well, I certainly didn't.
Neither did I.
Oh, it is you, Charles. You are playing tricks on us to try and frighten us.
I'm not. I swear I'm not.
It's difficult to think of what to say after 7 years. But I suppose good evening is as good as anything else.
Who are you?
Elvira, of course. Don't be so silly.
Can't stop this for another minute. Get up, everyone. Entertainment's over.
Oh, how tiresome of you, George. Charles, just as we're beginning to enjoy ourselves.
Never again. That's all I can say. Never again, as long as I live.
What is the matter with you?
Nothing's the matter. I'm just sick of the health business, that's all.
You mean to say, did you really hear something that we didn't hear?
No. I was only pretending.
I knew you were.
I wish I would have heard something.
Look, Madame, our party. What are we to do with her?
Bring her round as soon as possible.
No, I think maybe we should leave her where she is. Leave her alone.
She could be like that for hours.
I don't know. Oh, she's out all right.
Bring her round. It's dangerous to leave her like that for too long. Madame McCarthy, wake up.
Why are you acting so peculiar?
It's time to go to hell.
Easy does it, old man.
Brandon, get some brandy. Give her some brandy.
Yes.
Put her in the chair, Brandon. Help her.
Hold on. I'll get her leg.
Here's the brandy.
Madame McCarthy. Little Tommy Tucker. Wake up. Wake up.
Oh, careful, Charles. You're spilling it all down her dress.
Wake up.
She's coming around.
Well, are you all right?
Certainly, my dear. Never felt better in my life.
Would you like some more brandy?
Oh, so that's the funny taste in my mouth. Well, fancy. Really, Dr. Bradman. Imagine allowing them to give me brandy on top of a trance. It could have been catastrophic. Oh, you ought to have known better. Anyway, please take it away. I probably shan't even sleep a wink tonight as it is.
I know I shan't.
Why have you not?
The health business has unhinged me.
So tell me, what happened? Was it satisfactory?
Well, not much happened, Madame Arcati, after you went off.
Something happened, all right. I can sense it. No poltergeist at any rate. That's a good thing. Any apparitions?
No, not a thing.
No ectoplasm?
I don't quite know what that is, but no.
Curious. Very curious.
Well,
I feel as though something tremendous has taken place here.
Charles did pretend that he heard a voice in order to scare us.
It's only a joke.
A very poor one, if I may say. Nonetheless, I am prepared to say that there is somebody in this house with psychic ability apart from myself.
No, I really don't see how that could be, Madame Arcati.
I do hope I haven't gone and released something. But we are bound to know in a day or two. So if you hear any unexplained noises or experience any manifestations, you will let me know at once.
Of course, we shall telephone you immediately.
Very good. Well, now, I really must be on my way.
Oh, are you sure you don't want anything else before you go?
No, my dear. I have some Ovaltine at home already in a saucepan. It just needs some hotting up.
Sure, you wouldn't like to leave your bicycle here and let us drive you?
After that trance and everything, you can't be feeling quite yourself.
Nonsense, my dear. I feel as fit as a fiddle. Always feeling capital after a trance. It rejuvenates me. Well, goodbye, Miss Gondomine.
You were so sweet of you to go to so much trouble.
I am so sorry so little happened. It's that cold of Daphne's, I expect. I mean, you know what children are like when there's anything the matter with them. We can try again another evening.
Yes, that would be lovely.
Mrs. Bradman.
It's been a thrilling evening. I felt the table absolutely shaking under my hands. So much.
Dr. Bradman.
Congratulations, Madam McCarthy.
I'm fully aware of the irony in your voice, Dr. Bradman. In fact, you would make an admirable subject for telepathic hypnosis. A good chum of mine is an expert. I should like her to look you over.
I'm sure I shall be charmed.
Well, goodbye once more, everybody. And next night, We shall really have to put our backs into it, eh?
Good night, Miss Palmer.
Oh dear.
Terrible, Mrs. Condamine. She might hear you.
I know, but I can't help it. I really can't. I've been holding this in all evening.
She certainly put you in your place, George, and served you right.
Ben, she's mad, isn't she? Mad as a hatter.
Do you really think she believes?
Oh, the whole thing was a put-up job. Although I must say she shoots a more original line than they usually do.
Well, I think that she's nearly half convinced herself it's true by now.
Possibly. The trance was genuine enough, but of course that can be easily explained for.
Hysteria?
A form of hysteria, yes.
I do hope Mr. Condamine got all the atmosphere he wanted for his book.
Well, he might have got a great deal more if he hadn't spoiled everything by being so silly. I really am quite annoyed at him.
Maybe it was one of those elementals that he was talking about.
Elementals, how do you...
Oh, no. She's distinctly said it's the wrong time of year for elementals.
Oh, I see.
Did you feel that draft? Is the window open?
No, it's shut.
No,
I felt nothing.
I wonder where Charles is.
Oh, she was funny.
The old girl's gone pedaling off down the drive at a hell of a speed. We had a little trouble lighting her lamp.
Oh, the poor thing.
I have a theory about her, you know. I think she's completely sincere.
Oh, Charles, how could you?
Wouldn't such a thing be possible, Doctor? Some sort of self-hypnotism?
Well, could be, as I was just explaining to your wife there now, there are certain types, you see,
George,
there's certain
dear,
types of self...
It's getting terribly late. We really ought to go home. You have to be up early in the morning.
You see, the moment I begin to talk about anything that interests me, my wife interrupts me.
You know I'm right, darling.
You'll have a drink before you go.
No, thank you. No, Violet's absolutely correct. I do have to be up abominably early in the morning. I am having a patient operated upon.
You're sure about the drink?
Yes, sure, thank you.
Well, goodbye, Mrs. Bradman.
It was sweet of you to include us. Thank you so much.
Bye, Doctor.
Bye, Mr. Condamine. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I'm sure.
Yes, okay.
We shall let you know if we find any poltergeists swirling around the house.
I should never forgive you, you didn't.
Hello, darling.
All right.
Hello, darling.
Fine. That's some nice.
Well, darling,
Well,
did you find the evening profitable?
yes, I suppose so.
I must say, it was extremely funny at moments. It really was.
Yes, it was very funny.
Well, what's the matter with you?
Matter?
Well, yes, you seem odd somehow. Are you feeling quite well?
Perfectly. I'm going to have a drink. Do you want one?
Oh, no, thank you, dear.
It's rather chilly in this room.
Oh, well, come over by the fire.
I don't think I'll make any notes tonight.
Oh.
I'll start first thing in the morning. My God!
Charles!
Oh dear!
That was very clumsy, Charles, darling.
That is true, it was you.
Of course it was.
Are you a ghost?
I don't know. It's all a bit confusing, but I suppose I must be.
Charles, why don't you keep looking over there? Well, look at me. What's the matter?
Don't you see her?
See what?
Elvira!
Elvira?
Yes! Elvira, dear. This is Ruth. Ruth, this is Elvira.
No, come along, dear. Come along.
Do you mean to say you can't see her?
No, dear, come and sit by the fire and I'll make you another drink. And don't worry about the mess. Edith can clean that up in the morning.
But you must be able to see her. She's there. Look, in front of you. There.
Are you mad? What is the matter with you?
You can't see her.
Oh, Charles, seriously, if this is a joke, it's not funny. Now come and sit down and stop being so silly.
What am I to do? What the hell am I to do?
Well, I should think you might at least be a little more pleased to see me, darling. After all, you conjured me up.
I didn't do any such thing.
Oh, nonsense. Of course you did. That awful child with a cold came and told me you wanted to see me urgently.
It was a horrible mistake. It was all a mistake.
Here, have a drink.
This is appalling.
Oh, very unwise, Charles. You always had a weak head.
Yeah, drink this.
Very unwise.
Now, relax.
How can I relax? I'll never be able to relax again as long as I live.
Now sit down.
Why are you so anxious for me to sit down? What good will that do?
Because you can't relax standing up.
African natives can. They can stand on one leg for hours.
Well, I don't happen to be an African native.
You don't happen to be a what?
An African native!
What's that got to do with anything?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, Ruth. We'll forget all about it. See? I've sat down.
Would you like another drink?
Yes, please.
Very unwise. You've always had a weak head.
I could you under the table.
But there's no need to be aggressive, Charles. I'm trying to help.
I'm sorry,
Now, drink this and then we should go to bed.
Get rid of it, Charles. Then we can talk in peace.
That's a thoroughly immoral suggestion. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
But what's immoral like that?
I wasn't talking to you.
Oh, then where are you talking to,
With
Charles?
Elvira, of course.
Oh, to hell with Elvira.
Oh, there, now she's getting low.
Well, I don't blame her.
You don't blame who for what?
Oh, God.
Oh, Charles, look, I'm not as silly as I look, you know. I know this is some sort of plan you're working up. I guess as much during that idiotic seance.
Never so silly. What plan could I have?
But I don't know. Do I? It's probably got something to do with your novel, how one of the characters reacts to a particular situation. Well, I refuse to be used as a guinea pig if you don't warn me in advance.
Elvira is here, Ruth.
Oh.
She's a few yards away from you.
Oh, yes, darling, I see her distinctly. Over by the fireplace, with a zebra.
But Ruth, please, listen.
No, look, I'm not going to argue about this any longer, Charles. No,
Ray, she's gone.
I refuse.
Shut up!
How dare you speak to me like that?
Ruth, please.
No, I refuse to listen to this any longer. I'm going to go to bed. I shall leave you to turn out the lights and tidy up. And I shan't sleep, I'm too upset, so if you want to come and say goodnight, you can.
That's big of her, I must say.
Be quiet, you're acting like a gut snipe.
How dare you! I have nothing further to say, Charles.
That was one of the most enjoyable half hours I've ever spent.
Well, Elvira, how could you?
Oh, poor Ruth.
This is obviously an hallucination, isn't it?
Well, I'm afraid I don't know the technical term for it.
What am I to do?
Oh, darling, what Ruth suggested, relax.
How did you get here?
I told you, I'm just not quite sure.
Are you to be here indefinitely?
Well, I don't know that either.
God.
Why? Would you hate it so much if I was?
Well, you must admit it would be a bit embarrassing.
I don't see why, really, darling. It's all just a question of adjusting yourself. Anyhow, I think it's horrid of you to be so unwelcoming and disagreeable.
Now look here, Elvira.
Oh, I do. I think you're mean, Charles.
Try to see it from my point of view, would you? I've been married to Ruth for 5 years. You've been dead for 7.
Not dead, Charles. Passed over. It's considered vulgar to say
Passed over then.
At any rate, darling, now that I'm here, the least that you could do is to make a pretense of being amiable about it.
Well, yes, of course. I'm delighted in one way.
I don't believe you love me anymore.
Well, I shall always love the memory of you.
Well, really? You can't blame me for being a little bit hurt, Charles. After all, you called me back, and a great inconvenience I came, and you've been thoroughly churlish to me ever since I arrived.
Believe me, Elvira, I most emphatically did not call you back. There's been some mistake.
No, well, somebody did. Look, I remember. I was playing backgammon with a very sweet old Oriental gentleman. Yes, that's right. I think his name was Genghis Khan. Yeah, and then I just threw a double sixes. And then that child paged me, and the next thing I knew, I was in this room. So, Charles, look, I think it must have been your subconscious.
Well, you must find out if you're going to stay here, and then we can make arrangements accordingly.
Well, I don't see how I can.
Well, try to think. Isn't there somebody over there on the other side, or whatever it's called, who could advise you?
Oh, look, I can't think, Charles. It all seems so far away, as though I
Surely you must know somebody beside Genghis Khan.
Oh, Charles!
What's the matter?
I want to cry, but I don't think I'm able to.
Well, why do you want to cry?
It's seeing you again, and you being so irascible, just like you always used to be.
Don't mean to be irascible, Elvira.
Oh, darling, I don't mind really. I never did.
Is it cold being a ghost?
No, I don't think so.
What happens if I touch you?
Oh, I don't know. Do you want to?
Oh, Elvira,
Oh, darling.
I do feel strange seeing you again.
Oh, darling, that's better.
What's better?
Your voice, it was kinder, darling.
Was I ever unkind when you were alive?
Oh, often! You were an absolute pig that time we went to Cornwall and stayed in that awful hotel. You hit me over the head with a billiard cue.
Yes, only very, very gently.
Oh, I loved you very much.
And I loved you too.
Oh.
No. I can't touch you.
Oh.
Isn't that awful?
Oh, darling, perhaps as well if I'm going to stay for any length of time.
I suppose I shall wake up eventually, but I feel strangely peaceful now.
That's good, darling. Yes, that's right. Just put your head back. That's it.
Like that?
Yes, darling. Oh, can you feel anything?
Only a very gentle breeze through my hair.
Well, that's better than nothing.
I suppose I shall... If I'm really mad, they shall put me in an asylum.
Darling, don't worry about that. Just relax. That's right. Oh, to hell with Ruth.
Good morning, darling. Mwah.
Good morning, Charles.
It certainly is.
What certainly is what?
A good morning, a tremendously good morning. There's not a cloud in the sky and everything looks newly washed.
Good.
Anything interesting at the Times, dear?
Don't be silly, Charles.
I intend to work all day.
Very well, good.
extraordinary about daylight, isn't it?
In what way?
The way it reduces everything to normal.
Does it?
Yes, it does.
Well, I'm sure I'm very glad to hear it.
You're rather glacial this morning.
Are you surprised?
Well, quite frankly, yes. I expected more of you, Ruth.
Really?
I always thought you a woman of perception and understanding.
Well, perhaps today is one of my off days.
Good morning, Edith.
Oh, good morning, sir.
Feeling fit?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
How's cook?
Oh, I don't know, sir. I haven't asked her.
Oh, but you should. You should start every day by asking everyone how they are. It oils the wheels.
Yes, sir.
Greet her for me, will you?
Yes, sir. That'll be all for now, Edith. Thank you. Yes, sir. Really wish you wouldn't be facetious with the servants, Charles. It confuses them and undermines their morale.
I find that point of view retrogressive, if not downright feudal.
I don't really care how you find it. I'm the one that has to run the house and not you.
Are you implying that I couldn't?
Well, you're certainly at liberty to try.
I take back what I said about it being a good morning. It's a horrid morning.
Eat your breakfast while it's hot.
It isn't.
Now look here, Charles. This display of roguish flippancy might have been alluring in your younger days, but in a middle-aged novelist, it's rather nauseating.
Would you like me to writhe about at your feet in a frenzy of self-abasement?
Well, that would be equally nauseating, but rather more appropriate.
I can't see what I've done that's so awful.
You behaved abominably last night.
I was the victim of an aberration.
Nonsense. You were drunk.
Drunk?
You had 4 strong dry martinis before dinner. Goodness knows how much Burgundy and port and cummer with Dr. Bradman while I was entertaining that mad woman. And then another 2 strong brandies after dinner. I gave them to you myself. Of course you were drunk.
So that's your story, is it?
And then you refused to come to bed with me, and when I came down at 3 o'clock in the morning to find out where you were, I found you collapsed on the sofa in an alcoholic coma with the fire out and hair all over your face.
I was not in the least bit drunk, Ruth. Something happened to me. Something very peculiar happened to me.
Nonsense.
It's not nonsense. I know it sounds like nonsense now in the clear, remorseless light of day, but last night it was far from nonsense. I had some sort of hallucination.
I really don't want to discuss it any further, Charles.
But you must discuss it. It's very disturbing.
Well, there I do agree with you. It showed you in the most unflattering light. I find that extremely disturbing.
I swear to you that during the séance, I was convinced I heard Elvira's voice.
And you're really expecting me to believe that you weren't drunk?
And later on, I was equally convinced that she was in this room. I saw her and I spoke to her. After you'd gone to bed, we had quite a cosy little chat.
When no one else heard her?
I can't help that. I did. I know I wasn't drunk. If I'd been all that drunk, I should have a dreadful hangover now, shouldn't I?
Well, I'm not sure you don't.
Well, I don't have a trace of a headache and my tongue's not coated. Look.
Kindly put your tongue away, Charles. I have no desire to look at it.
I know what it is. You're afraid.
Afraid? Nonsense. What am I afraid of?
Elvira, of course. You wouldn't have minded all that much if I had been drunk. It's only because it's all mixed up with Elvira.
I seem to recall telling you before dinner last night that you had rather a didactic view of female psychology. I was right. I should have added puerile.
That's when it all started.
When what started?
We were talking too much about Elvira. It's dangerous to have somebody too strongly in your mind when you start dabbling in the occult.
Well, she wasn't strong in my mind.
Well, she was in mine.
Oh, was she indeed?
You tried to get me to say that she was more physically attractive than you so that you could hold it over me.
I did no such thing. I don't give a hoot how attractive she was.
Oh, yes, you do. Your whole thing's devoured with jealousy.
Oh, but this is just too much, Charles.
Women, my God, what I think of women.
Well, your view of women is academic to say the least. Just because you've been dominated by them your whole life doesn't mean you know anything about them.
I've never been dominated by anyone.
Please. You were hag-ridden by your mother until you were 23, and then you got into the clutches of that Mrs. whatever her name was.
Winthrop Llewellyn.
Oh, I really don't care. And then, of course, there was Elvira. Well, she ruled you with an iron rod.
Elvira never ruled anyone. She was far too elusive for that. That was one of her greatest charms.
And then, of course, there was Maud Charteris.
My affair with Maud Charteris lasted precisely 7.5 weeks, and she cried all the time.
Oh, the tyranny of tears. Then there was someone else. Who was the
If you wish to make an inventory of my sex life, dear, I feel it only fair to inform you that you've missed several episodes. I'll consult my diaries and give you a complete list after lunch.
There is no point trying to impress me with your list of amorous exploits, Charles.
The only person in my entire life who's ever tried to dominate me, Ruth, is you. You've been at it for years.
That is completely untrue.
No, it isn't. You boss and bully me and order me about. You won't even let me have an hallucination if I want to.
Charles, alcohol will destroy your whole life if you let it get a hold of you, you know.
Once and for all, Ruth, I want you to understand that what happened last night had absolutely nothing to do with alcohol. You very adroitly rationalized the whole affair to your own satisfaction, but your deductions are based on a complete fallacy. I grant you it was an aberration of some sort, some kind of psychic delusion brought on by hypnosis or self-suggestion, but I was stone cold sober from first to last, and extremely upset into the bargain.
Oh, you were upset indeed. What about me?
You behaved with a stolid, obtuse lack of comprehension which quite frankly shocked me.
Well, I think I was remarkably patient. I shall know better next time.
Instead of holding out a gentle, comradely hand to guide me, you barked staccato orders at me like a sergeant major.
Well, I think you're forgetting that you gratuitously insulted me last night.
I did not.
You called me a gutter snipe. You told me to shut up. And when I quietly suggested that we go to bed, you said with the most disgusting leer that it was an immoral suggestion.
I was talking to Elvira.
Well, if you were, it only raises the most fragrant image of your first marriage.
My first marriage was perfectly charming, and I think it in the worst possible taste for you to sneer at it.
I'm not so interested in your first marriage as you think I am, Charles. It's your second marriage I'm concerned about. It seems to be on the rocks.
Only because you insist on taking this ridiculous attitude.
My attitude is of a normal wife whose husband gets drunk and hurls abuse at her.
I was not drunk!
Keep quiet, Charles. They'll hear you in the kitchen.
I don't care if they hear me in Folkestone Town Hall. I was not drunk!
Control yourself, Charles.
How can I control myself in the face of your idiotic damn stupidity? It's giving me claustrophobia.
Well, you better call Dr. Bradman then.
Can I clear, please, Mum?
Oh, yes, Edith, yes. Thank you.
Cook wants to know about lunch, Mum.
Oh, yes. Charles, are you going to be in for lunch today?
Oh, don't worry about me. I shall be perfectly fine with a bottle of gin in my bedroom.
Don't be silly, darling. No, yes, tell Cook we'll both be in for lunch.
Yes, Mum.
I'm going into Hyde this morning. Do you need anything, Charles?
Yes, a great deal, but I doubt you'll get it in Hyde.
Yes, tell Cook to put some Alka-Seltzer on my list, will you, Edith? Thank you.
Yes, Mum.
It's clouding over.
You have a genius for understatement.
Yes, leave the table there, Edith. We'll put it away, thank you.
Yes, Mum.
Be reasonable, Ruth.
I am being perfectly reasonable, darling.
I wasn't pretending. I really did believe that I saw her, and when I heard her voice, I was appalled.
Well, you put up with it for 5 years.
And when I saw her, I got the shock of my life. That's why I dropped the glass.
Well, you couldn't have seen her, Charles.
I know I couldn't have, but I did.
Well, I'm willing to concede that you imagined you did.
That's what I've been trying to tell you for hours.
Well, there's obviously something wrong with you then.
Exactly. There's something wrong with me. Something fundamentally wrong with me.
Well,
That's why I've been imploring your sympathy, and all I got was a sterile temperance lecture.
you had been drinking, Charles. You can't deny that.
No more than usual.
How do you account for it then?
I can't account for it. That's what's so awful.
Well, how were you feeling yesterday? Were you feeling quite well during the day?
Of course.
Well, what did you have for lunch?
You ought to know. You had it with me.
Oh, let's see, yes. Oh, we had lemon sole with that cheesy thing.
Well, why should having a cheesy thing for lunch make me see my dead wife after dinner?
Well, I don't know, Charles. It was rather rich.
Well, why didn't you see your dead husband then? You had just as much of it as I did.
This is getting us nowhere.
No, and it won't, as long as you insist on attributing supernatural phenomena to colonic irritation.
Supernatural grandmother.
Well, I have to admit, she'd be less agitating.
Well, perhaps you ought to see a nerve specialist.
I'm not in the least bit neurotic, and I never had been.
Well, a psychoanalyst then.
I refuse to endure months of expensive humiliation, only to be told at the end of it that at the age of 4 I was in love with my rocking horse.
Well, how are you feeling now?
Physically, do you mean?
Well, altogether.
Apart from being worried, I feel quite normal.
Good. You're not hearing or seeing anything in the least unusual?
Not a thing.
Good.
You've absolutely ruined that border by the sundial. It looks like a mixed salad.
Oh my God!
What's the matter?
She's here again!
What do you mean? Who's here again?
Elvira!
Oh, don't be absurd, Charles. Really?
It's all those nasturtiums. They're so vulgar.
I like nasturtiums.
You like what?
I mean, they're all right in moderation, but in a mess like that, they look positively beastly.
Ruth, you've got to help me. Please help me.
What did you mean about the nasturtiums?
Never mind about that now. I tell you, she's here again.
You have been having a nice scene, haven't you? I can hear you right down the garden.
Please mind your own business.
Well, if you're behaving like a lunatic isn't my business, I don't know what is.
I expect it was about me, wasn't it? I mean, I know I ought to be sorry, but I'm not.
How can
I'm
you
delighted.
How can you be so inconsiderate?
Inconsiderate? Well, I like that, I must.
Darling, please.
No, Charles, I believe I have controlled myself admirably. And I want to say here and now that I don't believe a damned word about your hallucinations. You're up to something. You've been acting furtive for weeks. Why don't you just come out and tell me what it is?
No, Ruth, you're wrong. You're dead wrong.
No,
I
Charles,
haven't been the least furtive.
you are trying to upset me. You are trying to goad me into doing something that I shall regret. Well, I'm not going to put up with it any longer, Charles. But you're making me utterly miserable.
Ruth, please, listen.
No, get away from me, Charles.
Oh, darling, let her have a good cry. It'll do her good.
You're utterly heartless.
Heartless.
I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to Elvira.
Good. Go on talking to her then. Talk to her till you're blue in the face. Just don't talk to me.
Elvira, help me.
How,
Well,
darling?
make her see you or something.
Oh, well, I'm afraid I couldn't manage that. Taking is the most difficult business, you know. Frightfully complicated. It takes years of study.
But you are here, aren't you? You're not an illusion.
Well, I'm maybe an illusion, but I'm definitely here.
And how did you get here?
Look, I told you last night. I don't exactly know. I just...
Well, you must make me a promise that in future you only come and talk to me when I'm alone.
Oh, darling, how unkind you are. Making me feel so unwanted. I've never been treated so rudely.
Well, I don't mean to be rude, Elvira, but you must see my point.
Darling, it's all your own fault for having married a woman who is incapable of seeing beyond the nose on her own face. Look, if she had any grain of sympathy or real affection for you, she'd believe what you tell her.
Well, how can you expect anybody to believe this?
Will you be surprised how gullible people are? We often laugh about it on the other side.
Charles, darling.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm sorry I was upset.
But Ruth, dear.
No, I understand everything now. I really do.
You do?
Well, of course I do, darling.
Look out, she's up to something.
Shut up!
But yes, darling, we'll all be quiet, won't we? We'll be as quiet as little mice.
But Ruth.
Now, come along, darling. I want to bring you upstairs to bed. Come along.
But the way that woman harps on about bed, it's nothing short of erotic.
I'll deal with you later.
Yes, very well, darling. Very well, we will, yes.
What are you up to?
No, I'm not up to anything, darling. No, I just want you to go to bed and relax until Dr. Bradman comes.
No, Ruth, no, you're wrong.
Elvira, help me.
You in a straight jacket before you know where. Anyway, you want me to help you? Well, look, that all depends what it is.
Just one minute. Ruth, if I promise to go to bed, will you let me stay here for 5 minutes longer?
No, darling, I really do think...
Please, just bear with me. However mad it is, please bear with me for 5 minutes longer.
Very well. What is it?
Sit down.
All right. Oh, now, there, I'm sitting.
Now, Ruth, I want to explain to you, quietly, without emotion, that the ghost or shade or whatever you want to call it of my first wife Elvira is here in this room now.
Yes, darling.
I know you don't believe me, and I know you're trying valiantly to humour me, but I intend to prove it to you.
But why don't you prove anything you want later on and go for a nice rest now, darling?
She might not be here later on.
Don't worry, she will.
No, but hush, darling, it's fine.
Promise you'll do as I ask.
That all depends what it is.
Ruth,
Yes?
you see that bell of flowers beside the telephone?
Yes, darling, I did those myself this morning.
Very untidily, if I may say so.
You may not.
Well, I promise I won't do them again, I promise.
Elvira will now carry that bell of flowers to the mantelpiece and back again. You will, won't you? Just to please me.
Well, darling, I don't really see why I should. After all, you've been thoroughly insufferable to me ever since I materialised.
Please.
All right, I will just this once. Not that I approve of all these masculine and devout carryings on.
Okay, watch carefully, Ruth.
Yes, darling.
Go on, Elvira, to the mantelpiece and back again.
Charles, how could you? You ought to be ashamed of yourself, Charles!
What on earth for?
Well, then this is some sort of trick. You've been working up to this, some sort of plan for ages.
It isn't, I swear it isn't. Elvira, do something else for God's sake.
Certainly, darling. Anything to oblige. You're trying to get rid of me. You're trying to drive me out of my mind. I know you are.
Don't be so silly.